Good morning, YouTube. Today we have Danny Pasula. He's going to be profiling for us a Zing deck profile that he just recently won our little local chaotic Sky tournament, whatchamacallit, with.
So for the monsters, I am playing 2 Chi-Wins. I never really saw the need for 3 out of this entire thing. You could play 3 if you really chose to, but I just really kind of like the 2 for this. And then for the next of the tuners, I do play the best card in the deck, in my opinion, which is 3 Giotto. This thing put in so much work today, and this, or not today, but during this whole tournament, it essentially just makes the deck so explosive, and I essentially wanted to see this as much as physically possible. This is all like the main tuners I do play. For just the main cast, I do play 3 Sewanni. This adds the boost, and he's kind of the main beater of the deck. I do play 3 Bixie. This is kind of my second favorite of the Yangzing, because he not only does he have 2,000 defense, like Giotto, but he also makes the monster that he brings out invulnerable to traps. And traps is kind of heavy in this quote-unquote meta that we had for this tournament, so I felt he was pretty important. And then I played 2 Bayan. 3 was just too cloggy, in my opinion, so I really only just felt the need for 2. I was playing 3 for a while in the last profile I did, but I think 2 is kind of better in this situation, because you saw it just kind of enough for the things that you needed. And then I did play 1 Taito. He's a necessary evil. He's kind of the worst one, being level 5, but the times I was able to bring him out and just become a beater was pretty handy. That was the main cast. For the non-Yangzing...
Main cast?
Yeah, the main cast. For the side casting
For a guy who doesn't like theater.
For the side cast characters, I do play 1 Masked Chameleon. I never saw it. Like, I rarely saw this throughout the entire day. I probably used it like once.
And when he says day, what does it take, 2 months?
Yeah, it took 2 months throughout the entire like event, essentially. 1 Ghost Ogre. This was subpar. It was decent. It came in clutch against one of my matchups. So it was okay.
Which matchup was that?
It was the first PK matchup I was up against. It was just the first Phantom Knight one that I was up against. I only used it once, and that was when I ever needed it. But other times I had it in my hand, I didn't need it. So this is good. I'd play it, but it's subpar. Maxi, though, this really came in handy against Phantom Knights, both matches, because I had to face up against the same one, as well as up against Super Heavies. I went like +6 off of it. Like, I was able to essentially like just drop it, and they just let me plus off of it. So that was super great about it. And that was the monster lineup, kind of a typical lineup. I don't know how many there was, but for the spells, 3 Path. This definitely comes in very handy. This was essentially unclogged my hands, gave me extra cards. I never did not like seeing this in my hand. It was just amazing. I wouldn't play any less than 3. Next was the second best card of the whole event, was 2 Dark Holes. This essentially made the plays just kind of go off. It was also a disruption card, as well as essentially a play starter. Because there would be times I just have 1 monster, they would probably have a couple, and then I would just use it, and then I can create some boards, essentially. And it was very nice. I played 2 MST, Back Row Hate. I prefer this over Twin Twister in this side of the deck. I don't like discarding my monsters, or any of my cards, essentially. Soul Charge, if I could resolve this, I essentially win, because I get to just create bigger boards than I had beforehand, and it's just really good. And then I played 1 Upstart Goblin, playing 39 cards. That's it for the spells. It's pretty small, pretty light, because I mostly play heavy traps. 3 Creation. This was like probably one of the MVP traps. I saw this a lot, and essentially this digs through your monsters extremely quickly. Would I say I ran into it too much? Maybe on occasions. Maybe once against one of my PK matchups. But other than that, like, it was pretty fine for most of the time. I saw it when I needed it, and it was just always there. 2 Call the Haunted to bring back some monsters from the graveyards. There's like a few monsters in there that I really just needed to retrieve back, or to make some more disruption plays to not die. So Call the Haunted was really good. I always recommend Call the Haunted in this type of deck. For effect negation cards, I do play 2 Breakthrough Skills. Breakthrough Skill was actually very handy. I like Breakthrough Skill. And 2 Chains. I like to do kind of a 2 and 2 ratio. It's like a 2 rule I like to follow. These were pretty handy. I really like this. You could play Break Sword if you really felt like it. I just kind of like Fiendish Chain, because then I can still attack the monster that I Fiendish. So that's why I prefer it. And then the one skill drain, probably the best trap in the entire deck in my opinion, next to the creation. Just locks down the entire field. I think there was once I was up against PK or up against super heavies, and I think I played it and it was just great. I think I played this against super heavies, but it was great.
So for those who don't know, tell them what makes skill drain so great in this deck.
So essentially, when your main monster that you'll be synchroing with is the Bixie, the one that prevents you from being hurt by traps. So you can essentially go make monsters in your extra deck, which I'll get to in a second, and you can play skill drain, and none of your dudes will be affected by traps, and that's super great. So you can do this, and you won't die, and all of your dudes activate whenever they're sent to the graveyard. So that's what makes skill drain so great for those who don't know. And it's just overall really good. I think it's overall a great card in any kind of format, just because you can negate effects, you know. So this is great. And then just for one-off traps, mostly just summon preventers. Torrential works as another dark hole. I'd probably still play this as many as I could, essentially, in this type of deck. Bottomless, because it is bottomless, you know. It's just good. One solemn. If you really wanted to, you could probably play the other Solemn Brigade cards, but I felt that this one was kind of the one that I really wanted to play because I also don't have strikes. And then Vanities. Vanities is pretty good, you know. Vanities is essentially you set up a board and you just kind of sit on it, and there you go. That's really good. That's the main 40 cards. I typically don't go over that at all. Extra deck. This was a full 15. Played one Tatsu. This essentially, first off, its own inherent effect is it's unaffected by your opponent's monster effects, so that's really good. But then, like, you can synchro with a monster in your hand inherently. It doesn't activate, so this can essentially create more synchro plays for you just with the things that you have in your hand. So this was really good. You know, I saw this a couple times, and it was pretty good when I did, so I liked that a lot. I had to play 2 Herald of Arclights. I was playing 3 at a time, but 3 was kind of too much. So 2 was just enough because it's retrievable off of the Baxia. So this was pretty good. I really liked it. I saw it a lot, and essentially you want to see it a lot and use it with buy-in to make it invulnerable to attacks. So this is pretty good. For 5s, I play 2 in the form of Samsara. This is a monster reborn on legs, essentially, because you'll be summoning this out mostly in defense with a Suwani and a level 1 tuner, making him gain like 500 defense, making him really, really big.
I think he has more of a wing kind of motif going on than those legs. I was a little stumpy. You said monster reborn legs.
Yeah,
anyway, sorry.
metaphorically. But it's essentially a monster reborn, and that's why I used it. And also, it's heavy on defense. There's times I'm able to just stall games until I was able to get to my combo pieces with just sitting on this. And I played one Gataster, because Gataster essentially destroys anything that isn't dark, just before damage calculation. So that's why I really, really liked it. You could play something like Armades if you really wanted to, but I preferred Castel or Cataster just because I have it, and I like it a lot. It was pretty good. I dug it. For 6s, I play a couple in the form of Goyo Guardian, essentially just a stick that can steal your opponent's monsters from the graveyard. That was the whole point, essentially. So he's really big. Nathung didn't come at all. It's a non-targeting 800 reduction, as well as it does burn damage. It's essentially the Cowboy deck. Nathung's pretty good. I like it. But I rarely went into the 6s. There's a lot of 7s. I play a few in the form of Meteor Burst. This is extremely good, especially against decks that have effects that activate in the battle phase. So that's why I play him. One Black Rose, because it is another Dark Hole. Black Rose is Black Rose. One Moonlight Dragon. This was very clutch against super heavies because I essentially just summoned this and sat on it, and they just couldn't do anything. Like, anytime they summoned a monster, especially their big guy, I just bounced it back. Because essentially, when this guy is summoned, I can bounce a level 5 or higher monster, or when anytime they special summon a level 5 or higher monster, I just bounce it then too. So that's really, really good. One Yazi. It's essentially the Scrap Iron of the deck, but with benefits. Essentially, if you are going first, you want to summon this as soon as possible. Going second is more of the backseat play, but this is really good. It's also offensive too, so that's why I really, really like Yazi. You could play 2 if you so choose to. I just have the 1, and also I kind of liked 1. 1 was fine. For 8s, I just play a couple in the form of the 2 Baxias. This was the Star. essentially, I went into this every single game. I probably saw 2 almost every single game, and I even recycled it too. There's plenty of times I even saw multiples of it. So this was very, very good, and I really like it. If you don't know what it does, it's essentially a Mistworm whenever it's summoned, and then, you know, if you give it the benefits of Bixie, he's unaffected by traps. So that's what's really, really good. And you can target a face-up card on your side of the field and a level 4 or lower monster in your graveyard and special summon it and destroying the first target. So it's really, really good. I like it. This is really good. But you don't need 3. 3 is kind of cloggy, especially since it's recyclable off of the spell. I have played 2 9s in the form of Mistworm. If you wanted to play Trishula, you could. I just chose this because I have it. And I like Mistworm. He's pretty cool looking to me. And then Kayafeng. So if you don't know what Kayafeng does, he has a pretty complicated effect. But essentially, with the different amount of Yang Zing's worms used to summon him with, those attributes cannot activate their effects. And whenever he destroys a monster, you can add a tuner of that attribute to your hand. Or, I'll just read it, just in case. When Secret Summoned on the field, your opponent cannot activate effects of monsters with the same attributes as the Yang Zings that were used for the Synchro material, so it's the Yang Zings, not the worms. And when the Synchro Summon card is destroyed by battle or card effect and sent to the graveyard, you can add a tuner from your deck to your hand. And once per turn, when a monster you control is destroyed by battle or card effect, you can special summon a worm from your deck in defense position whose attribute is equal to the one that you destroyed. So he was really good. This came in clutch against my last matchup against PK. I just summoned this and I sat on it because they couldn't activate any other darks because I used the dark one, and it was really good. The side deck was kind of all over the place, but essentially I had a purpose for everything because there was no like specific meta, so I just kind of set some things in here just in case. So Flying Sea was primarily for PK or any heavy XYZ deck, but against PK, this was clutch. Like I didn't see this the first match against him, but second match, I saw this like 3 times. Like in game 2, it was literally just like summon, and the reason I lost was because I decided to attack it to try and progress. But this was just holding the game stalemate because they just can't play when this is on the field, and I just love it so much. And against Burning Abyss was good, but I didn't see Burning Abyss the entire event. 2 Spell Shattering Arrows, primarily for like Monarchs or Pendulums, but once again, I didn't see any of those, so I never went into this. This is a good card though. 2 Pendulum Shifts was kind of a fun one, just in case I did see Pendulums. I knew there was one player that was probably playing it, but I didn't see him the entire event. So this is pretty good. If you don't know what it does, you target a card in either player's Pendulum Zone, declare a number, declare a number between like 1 and 10, and it becomes that scale permanently. So it's really good. But once again, I didn't see it. I didn't see any of the dudes. For the chops, I did play 2 in the Band of Playdons. This was essentially if I needed it versus PK, but I never actually needed this. But this is a pretty good card. It's essentially neither player can special summon monsters if they have with the same level of a monster that they already have on the field or rank. So it's pretty good, but I didn't see it, or didn't really need it, because the primary star of the side deck was the Imperial Iron Walls. Like in my first match against PK, I essentially just played this and I locked him out of the entire game, because I saw like 2 of these against the first match against him. So it was really good. I saw this against the third match, but it didn't put in as much work as the Flying Sea did. So, but this was really good. This was also for Cosmo, because I think one player was playing it, but I didn't see him the entire event. He like dropped. So that's what that was for. But it was really good for that the entire day, and I was pretty satisfied.
Okay, so what do you feel about Yang Zings?
What I feel about Yang Zings is a really good tier 1.5 matchup for the meta these days. I think it's still really good. There is some flaws, obviously, with them being floaters. That not as good as floaters like Burning Abyss or PK kind of is in the sense, but this deck can hold its own and really stack up and kind of like stay in the game for a while, and has a lot of really good resilience that is kind of needed. This deck will not die to Cosmo, which is my least favorite matchup in most decks. Is it as resilient as like Burning Abyss? Not really, but essentially it has enough resilience to kind of keep it forward, and it's a control deck that's also really fast. So I think it's pretty decent, and I think if you're a budget player looking for something good to try out that's not part of the meta, this is something good that you could try out, and it's really good and really cheap to pick up too.
Alright.
$50 at max probably.
That's cheap depending on who you talk to.
Yeah, it's cheap depending on who you talk to, but $50 is pretty cheap for a deck, and I think it's pretty decent.
Alright, thank you.